Hi, this is Black Krishna, or BK, for manfulwars.com, where I'm promoting polite patriotism to help nice ladies and gents teach kids to be, to help us look, talk, and feel great, and to help us locally discuss and share great online info offline as better people making better people and places to live. So the media can't spin it. Online stuff is great, talking to people, comments, lots of activity. But at the end of the day, if patriots locally meet, use meetup.com, meet once a week, get to know each other well, use meet and greet tables to kind of be in some public area, connect with people locally, share posters, flyers, DVDs, and so on, then you can calmly and consistently get the word out to your neighbors. Then the media can't spin how you feel. And then you can help everybody get informed and empowered. And then from there, you can elect better politicians who can't just all say the same crap that everybody just kind of buys since they're not really interested, or the media confuses people. And then they can have better policies and help make better places to live as well. So, it's key. And check out manfulwars.com for more on that. And, being polite. Everybody likes. Everybody likes being nice. Everybody likes being polite. So you can't be a bad person. And that will get your foot in the door. And from there, you pass something on. And you say, if it's stupid, throw it out. If you like it, enjoy, keep it, pass it on, whatever, right? And you're just trying to help people have an open mind and to help them think for themselves, right? And maybe what you're saying is wrong, and they laugh at it, right? You see crap out there, you might get a flyer, you might get a coupon, you might get something, doesn't make any sense to you, doesn't mean anything to you, gone. You might get something else, does make sense, does mean something to you, good stuff. So manforwars.com for more on that. But this video is called Cats Movie Horrible Box Office and Reviews, a Rejection of Globalist Transhumanist Agenda, right? So the Cats movie Horrible Box Office and Reviews, is that a rejection of the globalist transhumanist agenda? Well, that's possible. So there's a bunch of points to this to make, and depending on, based on different interest levels, I'll try and touch on a few different things, or different knowledge levels. I'll try and touch on a few things to sort of clarify. So first, you got the movie Cats, right? Now, there's a couple of trailers I stumbled upon here. One from a few months ago, that was crap. And everybody's heard of the Cats movie by now, I assume. But this is a trailer from just a month ago. There's when I type in Cats trailer into YouTube, what happens. There's an older one, there's a more recent one, and I'll play some of this more recent one, Cats trailer number 2, that came out November 19th, 2019. Let's see if this works. There you can see Taylor Swift as the part human, part cat, animal-human hybrid, not just an actor in a costume.
Tonight is a magical night, where I choose the cat that deserves a new life.
Going to the ball could get dangerous. Come on! Let's dance!
I judge a cat by its soul.
I've got plenty of soul.
Spotlight. And a drum roll, please.
Milk! It's party time. The most deserving cat will be reborn into another life. So they can be who they've always dreamed of being.
What's your name?
Cat got your tongue?
Here we go!
Don't mess with the crazy cat lady.
Now it is time to make the choice.
Right, well, that's not going to work, is it? That's what I say to you.
Cross paws.
Come, we're about to begin.
I love it.
So there is the more recent minute and a half Cats trailer. Um, and and it was horrifying, right? It's even and I'm not into musicals per se, although I can enjoy something silly, something fun, no big deal. And if I saw a bunch of actors on stage wearing cat costumes, taking it super duper seriously, I could be amused. I could be impressed by that, and I could find it funny that these actors are putting their heart and soul into acting like cats while wearing cat costumes. But this is a whole nother level. This is beyond a costume. It looked like these were human beings that were actually transforming into cats. Like your face, your body was all morphing, and you weren't a human anymore. You were some sort of horrible human animal hybrid clone. And that really turned off a lot of people, and not just people that are red pilled, that are conspiracist, that are into discussing sort of deeper issues related to that. Just average Joe and Jane American, Joe and Jane European, Joe and Jane Canadian, Joe and Jane around the world. We're like, ugh, this is gross. What the hell, right? Mainstream reviewers of the movie were like, this is awful. This is scary. Twitter users were like, ugh, this is awful. Just the average person was like, this is horrible, right? And this appears to me to be a rejection, a sort of a natural rejection of the globalist transhuman agenda, which is something that we should all reject, not just naturally when we see it, but by being aware of it and by rejecting its implementation in pieces, right? So let's break down. And in fairness to the movie, of course, horrible reviews, horrible box office. There's all sorts of stories out there about it. I haven't looked into it that much, but you kind of run into these things when you're looking at politics and pop culture and relationships and so on, and it's all a big mess to for all of us who can to clean up for everybody else until they can get more informed and empowered and they can do it too. And they're saying it was rushed. They want to rush it to get it done in time for Oscar season, so they didn't have time to finish the special effects properly. They didn't have time to do this and that, and they want to get it ready so it could come out around Christmas. Oscars are in February, hopefully win an Oscar for Best Musical or whatever. And obviously that didn't happen and is not going to happen. Even the studio pulled the movie from Oscar consideration, and I think Golden Globes consideration, because otherwise the studios submit, for your consideration, please consider this movie as something that up for an award. The studio actually said, you know what, don't. We're not going to put it up there just to have its ass kicked or for you to make fun of it. We're going to quietly, remove it from the movies that we submit for your consideration to give awards to, right? And so that's on Cats the movie. And then when it comes to globalists are basically super rich central bankers, print money from nothing, run the world, want to weaken nationalists and nationalism and national sovereignty and countries worldwide so that they can control them centrally with the central bodies they control, like the UN, World Trade Organization, International Criminal Court, and others. So that's why you'll see, attacks on all sorts of levels, often promoted by the UN. You can type in UN borders and you'll have UN open borders policies, right? You'll have UN open borders white papers on UN websites, right? Stuff that you can't walk around in a country and say, hey, can you sign this petition? What's the petition? We want to open our borders, let anybody in. People who don't like where they live get to come in here. We're not going to be careful about who they are. We're not just going to take the best and brightest. We're not going to make it limited and organic and the best and the brightest to make sure that it doesn't destabilize where we live. It's just we feel worse for people overseas than we do for people here. Could you sign this petition, please? No. You'd get laughed at. You'd get told off. It's stupid. And yet, why is that promoted everywhere? That's globalism. These are not ideas that bubble up organically from the population that politicians want to appeal to. These are ideas coming from top down, from outside your country to screw you up. Just like sexualizing kids. You can walk around with a petition in any country in the world and say, excuse me, could you sign this petition? Oh, sure. What is it? We think we should teach younger and younger children more and more about more and more kinds of sex. Otherwise, some freaks who aren't doing something that makes them happy, or pedophiles who sexualizing kids does make them happy, need kids to learn about this stuff, right? And you know, you can go ahead. I dare you. You'll get ignored or told off or punched in the face or arrested, right? That's what'll happen. So why are they teaching younger and younger kids more and more about more and more kinds of sex? Like pedophiles feeding them information to soften them up to molest them later. Why? That's coming from the UN. The UN Exclaim document, XCLAIM, says children are sexual beings, children have sexual rights. The International Planned Parenthood Federation, worked on this as well. You can look at this stuff up yourself. It all came out in around 2010, 2011 was the initial big push by them, by the UN and other organizations, to push this type of thinking throughout the world, and then they launder it through governments, through activist organizations, through all these well-funded non-governmental organizations, meaning they work for the world government, not your country's government. That's why they're non-governmental. They're not American, Canadian, whatever government. They're non-governmental, which means there's somebody, they're responsible for to somebody, and that's the UN World Government Organization, right? And the international deals and so on that hamstring countries' ability to control what they want to do because they're tied up in international deals that are managed centrally. So that's the globalists, right? And as part of this plan, they want to weaken and control people, and that means you can't have nice, polite ladies and gents teaching kids to be who communicate well, reject all this crap, who feel like they're proud, patriotic nationalists, defending a great culture and a great country, and cool with each other and cool with other countries. No, you have to weaken all that. And part of weakening people is pushing transhumanism, right? And, transhumanism can be done incrementally. Now, not everything involved in pushing the agenda is necessarily bad, but the impact of it all together and the normalization of it and the lack of a pushback against it is what makes it worse and worse and worse. And it's a path, right? You could say, well, I normally like this. And you're like, you don't necessarily normally and naturally like it. And part of the proof of that is the reaction to the movie Cats, right? Because that's an extreme version of transhumanism, right? For example, tattoos. Tattoos, have been around for a few hundred years, right? And they were initially, used by just royalty, and then used by sailors and people in the military, and then some rebels and criminals caught onto them. So in the early 1900s, they were shunned by most people, and it was just rebels and criminals and so on using them. And then more recently, starting in the 1970s, over the last 50 years, they've increased more and more in popularity among more and more people. Now, you could say, what's wrong with tattoos? Lots of people have tattoos. I have a tattoo. My friend has a tattoo. I want to get a tattoo, and so on. Yeah, fair enough. But the tattoo isn't just some little accent on your body to remember a loved one or to commemorate a good time or something like that anymore. The tattoos are now starting to cover your whole body and your face. People are getting their eyelids tattooed. People are making, it's not about the tattoo, right? Back in my day, and I might be dating myself, but I think I'm worth it, right? At least to hang out initially, see if we get along, want to do it again. Otherwise, no worries, we'll both find somebody else. I'm sure we're good people. But even if I'm dating myself, I remember just a few years ago, you could ask somebody why they got a tattoo, and they could give you a really good explanation for it because it was a big deal, right? It was, a tattoo, why'd you get that? Oh, this and that, so and so. I trained in martial arts for a few years. I got my black belt in a couple of different disciplines. I went to Japan to study under some of their great masters, and now I want to get these Chinese characters or this dragon in a circle or something on my shoulder, right? And that's it. And people typically won't see it. It'll be under a t-shirt most of the time, but I'll know it's there. Sometimes take my shirt off or wear a tank top, show it off. Otherwise, now it's gone a lot further to the point where people have a lot more tattoos and a lot less to say about them. They're not special anymore. They're just sort of normal. They're so, yeah, it's felt like it. Got another tattoo. Felt like it. Yeah, got a tattoo. Felt like it. It's like, huh? So it went from being something really special to something just whatever. I just felt like it. I just felt like putting this all over my face, or all over my neck, or all of my hands, or all of my legs, or whatever, right? And and you're supposed to say you like it, even though you don't. Now, I've seen some tattoos done well. The artwork is done well. It looks good on the person, or the person looks good, period. And the tattoos don't affect that very much, right? But I've also seen things where a perfectly good-looking girl has a tattoo of a skull on her leg, and I'm just like, ugh, gross, right? This is a hot girl. She's got a nice body, and now I got to see that flaming, ugly skull on her leg, screwing it all up. And yet you're supposed to say you like that, right? You're supposed to say you like, oh, that's cool, that's edgy, that's different, that's whatever, right? That's part of the transhumanist agenda, getting people to like stuff they naturally and normally wouldn't like and say they like it, right? From the transhumanist thing, the piercings, the giant earlobe holes or whatever. And people can do this. I've had friends that have tattoos. I've had friends that have had piercings and so on. But I'm talking about the larger agenda and why it's promoted and what it leads to, which is humans acting and looking and acting less human and less able to act human with each other, less able to communicate well, and being turned into creatures that can't fight back against globalists and that are ultimately easier to control and possibly easier to kill off, right? So there's a bigger agenda than just freedom. Everybody wants freedom. No problem. You're free to get a tattoo, free to do whatever you want, as long as you don't mess yourself or anybody else up too badly. Mess yourself maybe, but not anybody else up, right? My freedom to swing my fist extends, indefinitely until it comes into contact with someone else's face or body, right? That's freedom, right? But within the construct of freedom, there are a lot of things that you're free to do that can be bad for you in the short term or ultimately be bad for you and society in the long term. So this isn't an anti-tattoo rant. This is just to give you an example of what the transhumanist agenda is, right? As it gets more and more normal, they're promoting more and more ugly models, more and more ugly looking people, more and more ugliness, and forcing us to say we like it. The CIA has admitted that they promoted ugly art, right? Starting in the 1960s, modern art. A lot of it was supposed to be ugly, and they would force you to say that you liked it. And the more they force you to say you like something ugly, the less you can appreciate beauty, the less you can be inspired to be better people and better people to other people, and the more confused you get, right? And that's part of the transhumanist agenda in broad strokes. And communism does the same thing. And globalism is part of an international communist conspiracy. The International Socialist Movement, the Fabian Society, the wolf in sheep's clothing logo, that's part of the Fabian Society, where they work incrementally in stages. They know that they can't get everybody to just agree to this garbage that makes them all miserable and leaves a handful of powerful people in charge of everybody being equally miserable and equally poor and equally controlled, while these people sit at the top and say, you people are so screwed up, you need us to control you more and more and more. There needs to be an incremental process. So this is part of that incremental process of getting us accustomed to this. And the communists in communist China, communist Russia, they often made sure they make all the buildings, ugly and gray, ugly gray square buildings, compared to a lot of the beautiful European architecture or beautiful Persian architecture or beautiful architecture in countries around the world where we've had the ability to make buildings and other structures look attractive for hundreds, thousands of years, right? And yet now we're supposed to make ugly square boxes, and that's supposed to, instead of inspire us, that's supposed to depress us and make us easier to control. So, I just wanted to make that clear that that's all part of it, and that's also part of the transgender agenda, right? That's all part of transhumanism. Now, there's the bigger picture, and then there is freedom, right? And so the freedom side says, let people do what they want, mind your business, if that's what makes them happy, except ultimately this is not meant to make you happy. This is meant to make people put up with you because you're a mess until they're not happy with you, you're not happy with them, and we're not happy with each other. So we got to be careful, right? We got to be careful when it comes to the big ideas being promoted, right? We need to promote what works. We need to promote what works for people, what makes people happy, people being good at being humans, people being attractive, people appreciating something attractive, and then people who want to deviate from that, no problem. For example, transgenders, say guys that want to be girls, they used to perform in sleazy bars in front of their friends, and they all had a great time. Now they insist on going to public libraries and reading books to little children about how good it is to be transgender, and dressing inappropriately, twerking, acting inappropriately, flashing their genitals at kids, having kids climb on their laps, crawl all over them on the floor, and they can get away with it because they're a special protected class. A lot of times people don't do background checks on them. So it gets out of hand. This is not freedom anymore. This is abuse. This is child abuse. This is abuse of parents, forced, and everybody forced to put up with this agenda. And this is all part of transhumanism. And this is ultimately abuse of them, because like at sexchangeregret.com, Walt hires great work, and he documents a lot of other sort of independent mainstream news articles, scientific studies, and so on, shows it usually doesn't make people happy. If it's not the best thing to do, it's the worst. If the best thing to do, archetypically for people for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, is to be good at being a man, straight man, be good at being a woman, straight woman, have yourself some cute little straight kids, have a family, have grandchildren, and keep it up, right? It wasn't to be like, whatever, I do whatever I want, whoever I want, blah, 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 blah. That's not what makes everybody happy, right? Those traditional roles are what make people happy. Now, within that framework, if there are some people who absolutely cannot be happy with that, then sure, switch, but fit in. Be polite, ladies and gents who happen to switch. You're gay, but you're not making a big deal out of it. You're not all messed up by it. You're not forcing us to put up with you being a mess. You're not trying to confuse or convince kids, right? You give them a chance to be good, to grow up to be, nice, polite, straight ladies and gents. And then if it doesn't work for them later on, switch. No problem. Just switch and fit in to the rest of the culture. And if you're nice and people are nice to you, who the hell cares? I've seen it myself at Toronto Pride parades a few years ago. I'm talking a few years back. I'm talking, 10, 20 years back, 30 years, whatever, years ago, right? I'm talking years ago when it was all polite Canadians and you couldn't tell who these people were, generally speaking, when you were out and about in Toronto. And then at Pride, they flew their freak flag. They dressed and did whatever, but they weren't that obnoxious. People were generally more polite. There was a couple of extreme cases, but it was just a good party. It wasn't sort of, put up with me, look at how weird I am now, put up with me, look at what I'm doing now, put up with me, look at how sacrilegious I am now, right? There's even a shot of in a bar, this was on the Infowars.com, at the Alex Jones show I saw this, where there's a man who was dressed like a weird alien-looking woman, not quite a woman, but kind of a female-ish-looking alien woman creature, and had a womb, a belly, like a pregnant belly there. And in this bar, as part of this scene filmed by somebody and posted somewhere, stabbed the belly like they were having an abortion, and then took the fetus or fake fetus out of their stomach and started eating it and dripping blood. Blah, 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 blah. So it's sacrilege. It's gone from just accepting people that couldn't fit into the norm and that tried their best by trying something different to still fit in, to people that are saying, screw all the normal things people like, we are going to be sacrilegious and we are going to be completely disrespectful of that. And that is all part of the transhumanist agenda. And the movie Cats, is part of our natural rejection of that. When you see these creatures, when you see these famous celebrities, Taylor Swift and others, Judi Dench and so on, when you see them, these are people you're supposed to like. They're good-looking people. They're charismatic people. They have a certain star quality to them. And we're supposed to like them, right? I like celebrities. I like good-looking people. There's something special about a celebrity, right? You can look at a picture, a Beyonce class picture from when she was like a 10-year-old or something, right? In some little documentary interview or clip or something, they'll show it. And you can see her with 30 other kids, and you can know that she is a star, a potential star, right? She's an extra good looking, extra, celebrities have that thing, a lot of them anyway. People like Brad Pitt, people like Angelina Jolie, like they do have something. There is something to that. Models, there's something to those people that makes Hollywood and the modeling industry want to bring them in and put them out there. And you can't just do that with anybody, right? Or at least you couldn't. Now with the transhumanist agenda, it becomes increasingly more likely that you can, as they put sort of more uglier and uglier models out there, bizarre looking, strange looking. And it's nothing personal against people. People are just trying to make do. People are trying to get by. But this is part of a larger agenda to sort of divide and conquer us as part of this process. Anyway, I won't go on and on about that for now. What I'll do is I will show you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about here. So there's a whole bunch of bad mainstream reviews. Now you would think the mainstream media would be, you know, all over this, like it's a big Hollywood movie. It's probably a bunch of liberals, you know, making it. It's a classic musical, you know, one of the world's longest running musicals, one of the most successful musicals in history, Cats. And so you would think that that they would be all over promoting this, right? But they aren't, right? They aren't. You know, you can see, when I do a search here on DuckDuckGo.com for Cats film review, right? There it is. And you can use DuckDuckGo.com or Start Page, since they are not as bad when it comes to censorship as Google. Google can sometimes still be handy because they've got billions of dollars and trillions of dollars or whatever, and they got a pretty good search engine, but they are now starting to hide a lot of things from people. So it's not an organic process of a lot of people like this, searched on it, clicked on it, you know, this is a key, so we'll put it to the top. Now it's like, even if a lot of people do, if it goes against the agenda we want to reflect, then we'll suppress it, right? So the Google and YouTube and so on, and Twitter and so on, all that stuff is a bit more suspect. But when it comes to Cats film review, it says here, Cats film review, a perfectly dreadful hairball of woe. That's from theguardian.com. The Guardian is the biggest paper in Europe. It's like the New York Times of England, and they're saying this is horrible, right? Cats review, a tale better left untold. Variety. Variety is the main Hollywood magazine, right? And they're crapping on it. The Hollywood Reporter, crapping on it. Common Sense Media, Roger Ebert, NewYorkPost.com, BuzzFeed News, Critics Savage, bizarre new movie adaptation. CNET, a seriously unique disaster piece. Cats is a horror and an occasional hoot, Los Angeles Times. The Cats movie reviews and reactions are so brutal, Cosmopolitan.com. So Cosmo, right? Cosmo that put an obese woman with tattoos on their cover. Obese. Not just thick, not just curvy, genuinely obese. And nothing personal against her, right? But there are health risks when it comes to obesity. There's self-esteem risks. You know, you can only blow smoke up someone's ass so much before they figure out that you're blowing smoke up their ass and they're not really, you know, what they, and you can only be so comfortable blowing smoke up there. I mean, ultimately, you know, it's not, and that's how a movie like Cats gets made, when you're forced to say you like ugly stuff, right? All these celebrities, all these special effects artists, all these Hollywood producers and directors and filmmakers and others involved in the project, right? They had to keep saying, yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, no, it's great. I have to like ugly stuff. Yeah, no, I can't say it's bad. I can't say it's bad. I've got to like that fat guy with a beard in a dress and say he looks so hot. Oh, do I think, you know, you have to say you like this ugly stuff, right? And that's how a movie like Cats got made, is because of the sort of liberal feelings agenda, don't hurt anybody's feelings, you have to like everything and anything, right? You know, you could have somebody have a tattoo all over their face of like a feces emoji, a poop emoji, and, you know, say, what do you think? You like it? And you can't say you're crazy. Put a baseball hat on, pull it low, and get to a dermatologist who can recommend a surgeon or microdermabrasion to get that off your face now. You shouldn't tattoo a poop emoji on your face. That's wrong, right? You can't. You're supposed to say, yeah, no, it looks great. You look great, and barely look at him, kind of sheepishly act weird near him. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's good. Ugh, right? That's what you're supposed to do. And that's how a movie like Cats gets made, and that's how a lot of people end up in weird relationships and weird situations, and a lot of the liberal sort of agenda is like that, bullying us, and that's also part of, again, the transhumanist agenda, which I'm really happy to say was rejected organically by everybody, even people that aren't aware of transhumanism, globalism, anything except, the world being fairly normal and maybe a couple of bad people hope the police catch them, right? Just rejected. They're like, no, we can't stand this. This is gross, right? Meanwhile, the fat ugly guy with a beard, having 3-year-olds sit on his lap and get 7 inches taller, right? While wearing a dress. The pedophile in drag, who's into this, as opposed to the normal drag queen who wants to perform in bars for his friends, sleazy bars with his friends, and have some privacy and be weird and kinky in private as kind of a dirty subculture, and then go back out and act normal around other people and not bother them or be bothered. Not them, the weirdos and perverts and creeps, right? They're the ones that are into this crap. And you've got to say that that's a good thing and you like that, and you got to take your kids to Drag Queen Story Hour and so on, right? But when it comes to Cats and the Cats movie, another example of some weird transhumanist, ugly stuff that you're supposed to say you like, boom, rejection, right? And that is actually ultimately a good thing. So, now I'll get on to a search for transhumanism, and you can do this search yourself. I won't post everything here, but there is a search from DuckDuckGo.com on transhumanism or transhumanist, and it's got Wikipedia, and it's got Watch Transhumanism, award-winning documentaries. It's got What is Transhumanism, whatistranshumanism.org. It's got Transhumanism, endtimesbibleprophecy.com, so some Christians warning that transhumanism is a sign that people are getting all screwed up and this could be the end times. There's What is Transhumanism, gotquestions.org. There's extremetech.org. What is transhumanism, or what does it mean to be human, right? And so on. The future of humanity, Human 2.0 is almost here, transhuman agenda, and so on and so forth. So let's go to Wikipedia. Now, you can't always trust Wikipedia. I know Wikipedia is corrupted. There's been stories about it. People who've worked at Wikipedia, editors there, have come out and said, no, I wasn't allowed to do this. They made me lie. They wouldn't let me change it. They blah, blah, blah. People, but whatever. Well, you get a general understanding, right? So here is the Wikipedia article on transhumanism, right? And it says here, transhumanism, abbreviated as H+, or H+. You see how they want to convince us? You see how the globalists want to convince us of their transhuman agenda? They're saying this is better than human. This is augmented humans. This is whatever. When in fact, it more than likely is not, because of the control factors. Now, in a perfect world where, Jesus was in charge of everything, and we all, were honest and didn't lie to each other, and the rich people were rich, but the rich didn't get richer and the poor get poorer. The rich tried to make sure everybody else got richer too with their power and influence to do so. Maybe you could have human plus. Maybe you could have a better situation to advance an agenda where, you could have, but because of a lot of corrupt people at the top, and because we can see a lot of the horrible things they make us and our kids put up with, you can't trust them, and you can't trust this, right? So there's transhumanism, abbreviated as H+, right there. Human plus. Oh, being a human is so boring. Why don't you take a chip in your head? Oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you take a microchip? Why don't you do some augmented surgery? Why don't you whatever? Being a man was so boring. Why don't you put on a dress? Oh, being a woman is so boring. Why don't you be a man? Until they're not creatures who can find each other attractive and respect each other and communicate well, right? That's the idea. as opposed to, no, get better at being a man, get better at being a woman. And if you want to switch, if this shit really doesn't work for you, you went through therapy, you went through your childhood, you went through your past, you looked for solutions and it still doesn't work for you, fine, switch and then be good at it. Fine, whatever. Just be a nice lady and gentleman after a fashion. Don't just be some weirdo forcing people to put up with you, right? And if you want to get some tattoos, fine, right? But if you want to just keep messing with your body because you're never happy with it, then that's a sign that something's wrong, right? So okay, transhuman, abbreviated as H plus or H plus lowercase, is an international philosophical movement that advocates for the transformation of the human condition by developing and making widely available sophisticated technologies to greatly enhance human intellect and physiology. So they say they'll make you smarter, right? It'll be like, no, if we merge with machines, then we'll be smarter. Wouldn't it be great to be able to read a book in 2 seconds? Wouldn't it be great to be like in the Matrix, where Keanu Reeves' character Neo in the Matrix is plugged into the computer again and has a bunch of knowledge downloaded, and then he's there with Morpheus and he's like, I know kung fu, right? Yeah, that would be really cool, right? To know kung fu because you just got it downloaded into your head. The problem is, who's controlling the system doing this? Who's controlling the machine you're hooked up to? And what do they want? Do they want to make you a better person living in a nice place? Or do they want to shove you in the Matrix where you live in pods and they get to control the earth, or they get to kill you off because they're sick of you, they're done with you, they've got artificial intelligence and robots now, right? That's the problem with this agenda of going, what? I want to be a superhuman. That's why there's also comic book movies out there all the time, right? You see every second movie now is a Marvel or DC comic book movie. Why? Again, part of the transhuman agenda. Now, I like comic books as I'm a kid. I liked some comic book movies. A lot of this crap is Hollywood is just too evil, and there's too much woke crap and messages and agendas, and I'm just not, and I've got other things to do and other interests, and I outgrew it, now like a grown man. Now they're taking grown men and they're saying, what'd you like when you were a kid? Comic books, G.I. Okay, good. Think like a kid again. Don't think about your future. Think about your past. Think about how cool that was. Don't think about your future, what it's going to be, how you can influence it as an adult for yourself and your kids. Think about the past. So it regresses us, retro culture, like being trapped in the Matrix, where in the movie The Matrix came out in 1999, people were trapped in the late 20th century. That was the height of civilization. After the late 20th century, into the 2000s, everything went to crap, right? And in the 20 years since 1999, we can see echoes of that agenda, since even putting that movie out might have been part of their plan to sort of tell us what they're up to, in a way, allegorically, and then if we don't do anything about it, they get some good, bad karma from the devil as part of their, wacky, satanic, pedophile, elite, globalist belief system, right? For example, they also put out Fight Club in 1999, where a bunch of men who had to be sheepish, sideways, don't say much, don't talk about this, don't do that, at work, got together privately with other men they could respect, don't lie, look each other in the eye, no sheepish sideways, messing each other up stuff, making us a mess for ourselves and other people crap. Get together privately, think, talk, and fight, and do stuff for your hood. Just like other groups of men get together and influence the world, like the Freemasons, right? So it works, and no girls around, you don't have to worry about what to say, this and that, whatever. You don't have to defer to the double standard when there's girls around. You're not going to, just say all the same things. It always changes the dynamic, and it should, right? It should. Now, once it's established that those girls are, what are their interests? Are they interested in just being a nice girl with some nice guys? Or are they girls that are interested in really getting into this stuff in detail? Then you can mix it up, on a deeper level. But otherwise, yeah, a bunch of pit bulls barking, "Rah, rah, 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 rah," and a cute little poodle walks over. Hey guys, what are you up to? Arf, arf. You don't go, "Rah!" You tone it down a bit. Arf, 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 arf. Oh, how are you, honey? Oh, no, me and the guys were just arguing about something. What's going on? You don't do the same damn thing, right? And so Fight Club versus The Matrix, for example, can counteract this agenda. So back to transhumanist thinking. It says here, or back to this Wikipedia article. Transhumanist thinkers study the potential benefits and dangers of emerging technologies that could overcome fundamental human limitations as well as the ethical limitations of using such technologies. Again, making you feel small, right? Globalism, what does that mean? We're all on one world. We're all on we're all on the planet. We got to save the earth. Where else would we sit? We got to worry about climate change, what the weather might be like in 20 years, even though they can't get it right for the weekend. We're all one of 8 billion people. Yeah, that makes you feel small. At least a lot smaller than if you're one of 350 million Americans, 330 million Americans, or one of 35 million Canadians, or one of a number of people in your country, or in your state or province, or in your city or town, or in your circle of coworkers and friends and family, right? Instead, you're atomized. You're one of billions and billions of ants on planet Earth, as opposed to one of a few million people in a country that has a good thing going, that's connected with each other, right? So they're trying to make us feel small, make us feel this, make us feel that, to encourage us to look at transhumanism as a solution. And the ethical limitations of using such technologies. So they admit there are ethical limitations because people are not comfortable with this. But at the same time, they're pushing those ethical limitations, just like the human-animal hybrids. Alex Jones from Infowars.com, they're making human-animal hybrid clones in China. They've been making them for 20 years. And he's not just making it up. He's got some rare news stories, news reported but not repeated, like propaganda is, which is more likely the truth, news that's reported but not repeated, right? They find those and they promote those, right? There's an article in scientific in this scientific journal, saying, we just created an animal sheep clone, right? In an incubator. We merged the two cells together. We tried to grow it into a full creature, right? This is out there, right? And this is part of the transhumanist agenda, definitely in China, but also around the world. And China is the globalist role model. That's the globalist role model for the New World Order, for their takeover. So America, home of freedom, prosperity, blue jeans, rock and roll, big houses, big cars, kids have it better than you, no surveillance state, free speech, First Amendment, First Amendment free speech, Second Amendment, gun rights in case the first one doesn't work and someone tries to take it, right? As comedian Dave Chappelle said recently in his acceptance speech at the Kennedy Center Awards, right? That used to be the global role model. Now, I'm not saying America was perfect or American government was perfect. CIA screwed around, military screwed around, military industrial, but the idea of guaranteed individual rights, not given to you by government, given to you by God, just protected for you by government, and if not, you get the guns, you get the balls, you get rid of that government, you put another one in, and that government protects your God-given rights. That was the role model for the world. America is supposed to be replaced by China as the new role model for the world. So America is supposed to go down, and the West, China, is supposed to come up. And it's not the Chinese people behind this, it's globalist-backed communist China. Globalists let China into the World Trade Organization, didn't say clean up your Human Rights Act, didn't say bring in democracy, just said, oh, that'll happen if we keep trading with each other. But no, they didn't do that. They just made them economically stronger, being more repressive, with more surveillance, more control, more slave labor camps, more poor environmental regulations. Hey, why do they make things cheaper than us? Because they don't have environmental regulations. When we have environmental regulations, when we have garbage, we have to be carefully dispose of it. They just drive it off the coast of or ship it off the coast of their country and dump it in the ocean, right? And that's how they make stuff cheaper, in part, plus slave labor and so on, right? So that's part of this transhumanist agenda, and that is what they're pushing towards. And I bring all that up to say that that's why, right? And so this has already happened, right? They're already making these type of clones, cloning or merging different species together. This is all part of that agenda. So when it comes to ethical limitations, they'll be pushed by China and by other countries and by U.S. military experiments and other countries doing it and so on as part of this agenda. The last thing I'll read on transhumanism here is it says, The most common transhumanist thesis is that human beings may eventually be able to transform themselves into different beings with abilities so greatly expanded from the current condition as to merit the label of post-human beings, right? And it goes on there. So what is a post-human being? Look at cats, right? You know, that type of creature, right? And there are people today, right? The furries, the furries, the people that believe they should be an animal. They've got the spirit of an animal, but they got wrongly trapped in a human body. So they like to dress as cats or dogs or some other creature and say, no, I know I'm a human. I've got to go work at Starbucks or whatever, but I'm really an animal. My spirit, my ancestry, whatever, I was supposed to be an animal, just like, you know, men say, no, I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. I've got to do everything I can to try and be womanly, or vice versa. They feel this way about animals, right? And so if you take that to its logical extent, it's not just people, you know, buying a wig and a tail, or a hat, a mask and a tail or whatever, and, you know, having freaky sex with their partner like they're a cat or something, or a dog or whatever. It's this. It's Cats. It's the movie Cats, right? That's ultimately the logical extension of what somebody who's a quote-unquote furry, which is the sort of subculture of people that believe they're supposed to be animals, that's what the hell would happen. And as we can all see, thank God, it's gross. It's disgusting. It's weird. It's off-putting, right? It's all like, hey, you know, you can't... look at me. Come on. Don't you think this is cool? No, I don't. Oh, come on. I'm part human, part cat. Huh? How is this? Not just an actor in a cat suit taking it super seriously and people in the audience finding that funny, but with art, with CGI graphics, with you know, new computer graphics and so on, you know, actually morphing into some creature that's part human, part cat, that everybody finds gross, right? So I'm really happy about this rejection of the transhumanist agenda. So you can look that up yourself when it comes to transhumanism. Now I'll look up eugenics just briefly for people who don't know, all right? Because eugenics got a bad name, right? Here's eugenics is now most famously associated with Adolf Hitler, right? A lot of people generally know that you know, Adolf Hitler, you know, seen popularly as the worst person of the 20th century because of you know, running Nazi Germany, starting World War II, killing millions of Jews and millions of other people too, and launching a war that killed 50 plus million people in World War II, right? Like that, Hitler's known as the worst, and he was into eugenics, right? He was into, you know, we are the master race. Everyone else must be exterminated. We must do this. These people are good. These people are bad. You know, we must, you know, we must be breeding. We must eliminate the retarded. We must eliminate the mongrel races like the blacks, like the Jews, right? I mean, you know, that's what he's famous for, right? And yet, Hitler got his eugenics ideas from the British, from the Americans, because a lot of them were into eugenics too, right? And, you know, in terms of context, you know, by now we realize eugenics is probably a really bad idea in many ways. But at the time, there were people that were hardcore evil eugenicists that wanted to do horrible things to people. And there were people that, because eugenics was a normal thing to discuss in the early 1900s, they didn't have a horrible anti-human view of eugenics. They had a more positive view of eugenics, where they weren't as bad as some of the most evil eugenicists. So I'm not saying eugenics is good, but I'm saying when something is normal, it's like slavery, right? When slavery is normal, there are some people that are nicer to slaves, and there are some people that are really evil to slaves, right? And slavery is wrong, but the people within that paradigm can still be nice, right? Just like today in the medical community, right? I was talking with somebody recently about the medical industry and how, oh, these doctors, they, you know, just want to prescribe drugs, make money. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I agree. I think there's a lot of good people trapped in a bad system, and they're trying to do good, and there's some bad people at the top, and there may be even be some bad people lower down, but a lot of times it's some good people in a bad system, right? or there are good people that can act nobly and heroically on the wrong side of a war, right? There could be some soldiers from the South in the Civil War, or some soldiers from Germany in World War II that were trying to be decent people, but they were in a bad situation or on the wrong side of history, but they themselves were decent people, right? Maybe in a few years we'll say vlogs, the most narcissistic, pathetic, self-absorbed garbage that had ever happened to the world, where instead of talking to each other, people would talk to a camera and then put it on the internet, and then everyone else was supposed to go, ooh, it's so cool to see you talking for, 5 minutes or an hour or whatever on the internet. Oh, that's so crazy, right? That was just the worst thing. This could be seen in a few years as the stupidest thing to do. But you try and be a good person, doing what you can with what you know. So that's what I mean when it comes to eugenics. But the bottom line is that the globalist eugenicists at the top, they've always been into this. So here's some ideas of eugenics, history, introduction to eugenics, and so on. So I'll look at Wikipedia for a quick little snapshot. Again, don't trust Wikipedia all the time, but for generic sort of stuff like this, and they're not going to have a lot of stuff critical of it, but just for a generic understanding, I can fill in the critiques myself. So here is eugenics on Wikipedia, because this is also part of the transhumanist and cats agenda, right? If they can get us all screwed up and then they can eliminate us, that's eugenics, right? What could eugenics be? Eugenics could be, we need to get rid of these people, right? We need to get rid of this group of people. So what do? We can make them sick, make them weak, and kill them off, right? We need to get rid of the natives. We need to give them blankets full of smallpox. We need to get rid of blacks. We should give them syphilis. We need to get rid of this group of people. We should that part of that is eugenics, right? And the elites have always been obsessed with population control, right? Because the elites, and I'm talking about kings and queens going back years, they're always worried that there would be too many people, and those people would realize that they didn't want or need a king or queen, or the king or queen was bad, and so they would rise up, they would take out the king's army, and they would take out the king or queen. So they were always obsessed with controlling and possibly culling population. Even after the French Revolution, when the revolutionaries went over, the sort of communist French Revolution, which ultimately it turned into, what they would do is they would say, okay, we have too many people, so who should we get rid of? Not the rich, successful people, but the poor people, the unwanted people, criminals or whatever. They would, besides using the guillotine to chop off the heads of certain people, they would send a bunch of people out on a boat into the middle of the lake, and they would blow it up. And that's how they would kill people, right? And kings and queens have also always been obsessed with this. So that's part of what eugenics is. So transhumanism, where they say we're going to make you better, could also be a gateway to eugenics. We said we were going to make you better, but now that we got a chip in your head and you've got a whole bunch of other modifications that make you kind of weird and uncomfortable to be near and look at and isolated and divided and conquered, now we can kill you off, right? Maybe we'll shut off that chip in your head, and because it's wired into your brain, it shuts off your brain, right? Or maybe we'll say, hey, you could just live in a video game. Do you like Warcraft? Do you like, Call of Duty or whatever? The world sucks. We don't have a future. Well, you'd rather play that than go to work at McDonald's, wouldn't you? Okay, so why don't you sit in the pod? Sit in a pod, first for 3 hours a day, and then 6 hours a day, and then 12 hours a day. And then they say, you can just live there, right? You can be in the video game all the time. And then they just shut it off, right? So these are all, part of this. So from eugenics, it is here. Like a tree, eugenics draws its materials from many sources and organizes them into a harmonious entity. Logo from the Second International Eugenics Conference, 1921, depicting eugenics as a tree which unites a variety of different fields. This is from Wikipedia, saying there was a Second International Eugenics Conference in 1921. Now, Hitler was around from around 1933 to 1945, right? So this was a good 10 plus years before Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany was around, and there was already a second annual international eugenics conference. At least according to what I can tell from this, right? So it says here, eugenics, from the Greek eugenikos, eugenies, is a set of beliefs and practices that aim to improve the genetic quality of human population through selective breeding. And that's one way, right? Selective breeding is something done by farmers, right? You breed the best horses to get the next best horse. You breed the best sheep with the most fur to make sweaters or whatever to get the next, wool to get the next best sheep. Plants, you want to breed the strong plants. So I get it. And even with people, like we naturally select for qualities, right? There's something where you're looking for a man. If you're looking for a man, you're looking for a bigger, stronger guy. Why? Because your kids will probably be bigger, stronger kids. With a woman, you're looking for curves, you're looking for a curvy waistline, you're looking for a hip to waist ratio, right? You're thinking this is an ideal woman for breeding purposes, right? Ultimately, kind of deep down. So there is some normal and natural selective breeding, and you're looking generally for people that look like you because you want to carry on your genetics and your DNA. You want to pass on your lineage, right? So these days, there's a lot of interracialists and so that, and trans, woman who turned into a man, gives birth to a baby from a trans man who turned into a woman, but it's really her baby because she's all that stuff. There's all this weirdness out there, and I'm not against all of it. I've dated different colored girls myself, whatever, fine. But I will say that the girls that I got along the best with were the ones that looked the most like me, that were closest to me in terms of their background, girls that were of Indian descent but were born and raised in Canada. They were the ones who I had the best relationship with, and the ones that looked like me, and they're the ones you can relate the best with. So there is some selective breeding there. The other girls, hot white girls, hot Asian girl, hot black girl, hey, a lot of fun. When you're young and you're having fun, it can be fine, right? And even if you want to settle down, fine. But keep in mind that the thing that typically works for most people and makes most people happy is that. So don't just get trapped in something, right? You should always know what works to make people happy. And then as long as that is established, this is what always works to make people happy. It has. Conservatives try and preserve it. Liberals try and push for changes to make people happy. If we're all being honest and we're open to the truth and open to more information and open to evolving our opinions, it's a healthy conversation. If not, if we're just messed up and bitching and screaming at each other online or offline, then it's not, right? So I'm not totally against it, but I'm definitely not totally for endorsing it. Because if you're not totally against it, but you're concerned about it, cautious about it, then you could have most people doing what makes them happy, and then a few people doing something different that makes them happy, right? So no problem, right? However, if you're promoting it, then most people will be doing what doesn't make them happy, and even the people the few people that should be doing it to make them happy will be miserable with a bunch of other miserable people, right? So that doesn't work either, right? So you got to be a little bit careful when it comes to things like that. So those are my thoughts on breeding and eugenics and so on from a grassroots, organic, no body modification, just who we relate to and who we get along with, just like in-group preference, right? In-group preference is not racist, right? The fact that you like other people that look like you, that share your values, that is not racist, right? You can't take, a bunch of people at a black barbecue and say, you know what, you need to have a bunch of old Chinese people or show up and hang out with you, or you're racist. It's like, huh? Nah, man, me and my ninjas, we was just chilling. We listen to some hip hop, we wilding out, we smoking some blunts, we having a good time, right? It's like, well, you're racist. You bet. Okay, fine, never mind. Want to change the music? You want to be a little uncomfortable near each other? No. And you can't do the opposite. You can't take a bunch of Chinese people or Koreans. I love Korean barbecue. Can't take a bunch of Koreans and say, yeah, you got to let all these black guys into your barbecue backyard house party, otherwise you're racist. It's like, no, no, no. There is in-group preference. And people who validate their in-group and white people too. A bunch of white people doing white people things, going to NASCAR, whatever, events. You can't just say everybody has in-group preference. Now, from there, you can expand to be cool with other people. But there is also in-group preference. It's both. It's not racist. Now, again, the way they screw everybody up is by calling it racist, by forcing people to accept, something different, by feeling guilty, whatever. And minorities will do that. Some guys that are scumbags will be like, oh, you don't like dating black people? Oh, what's wrong, white girl? Are you racist? And so, okay, never mind. I'll date. No, it's just whatever you prefer, right? It's whatever you prefer. And it's not, and black people do the same thing, right? Some black girl could be like, I don't want to date a white guy. I want to date a big, strong black guy. That's who I want to date, right? Oh, you're so racist. All right, fine. Okay, white guy or whoever guy, just let's have sex, right? This is garbage, right? But they can guilt you into doing things that make you miserable and make you a miserable mess for other people as well. So we got to establish, what's good for most people. And what makes most people happy and what is normal. And then as freedom first people with an understanding of, how our culture has gotten here and been successful and what makes most people happy, from there you can expand that, right? From there you can expand that to include, something else, right? But you gotta promote what makes most people happy. Right? That's why I'm on the polite ladies and gents thing, right? I know it's like, oh, you're so silly. Polite ladies and gents, haha, so old-fashioned. Yeah, look what happens when you're not. When you're rude, animals, as opposed to polite ladies and gents. When you don't respect each other and your kids don't respect and listen to you, and they become, wards of the state and climate change, Antifa-style commie zombies, and they kill you in 10 years because you had a nice house and a nice car, and they're scared that you destroyed the planet because you had a good life, right? That's the type of garbage that goes on, right? When you're not people who respect each other in ways that we know work and that understand what makes people happy, while allowing, in freedom first cultures, for other people who are like, you know what? This is what makes most people happy. But if it really doesn't work for you, we don't want you to be screwed either. Go ahead, do something different. Just don't screw yourself or anybody else up. Good luck, right? That's life. So, it's important to get that right. And these days, a lot of people are not. I want to get back to this article to show you how old eugenics is and tie it to modern day transhumanism and cats. Back to Wikipedia on eugenics. It says here, about eugenics. The concept predates the term. Plato suggested applying the principles of selective breeding to humans around 400 BC. Early advocates of eugenics considered it as a way of improving groups of people. In modern usage, the term eugenics has close ties to scientific racism and white supremacism. Modern bioethicists who advocate new eugenics describe it as a way of enhancing individual traits regardless of group membership, right? So that's on eugenics. It's ancient Greece, and then the history of eugenics began in the early 20th century when a popular eugenics movement emerged in the United Kingdom, England, then spread to many countries like the United States and Canada and most European countries. In this period, eugenic ideas were espoused across the political spectrum, and many countries adopted eugenics policies intended to improve the quality of their population's genetic stock. Such programs included both positive measures, such as encouraging individuals deemed particularly fit to reproduce, and negative measures, such as marriage prohibitions and forced sterilization of people deemed unfit for reproduction. Those deemed unfit to reproduce often included people with mental or physical disabilities, people who scored low in IQ, criminals and deviants, and members of disfavored minority groups. Then eugenics became associated with Nazi Germany and the Holocaust, and that's when it had a bad name. And then, now they've changed the name of eugenics to bioethics, right? They still like eugenics, but they've changed it to bioethics, or they've changed it to transhumanism, or they've changed it to something else, right? And you can have positive ideas that can relate, that can be related to eugenics. They may not be eugenics ideas as we normally understand them, but when you have Viktor Orban as the president of or prime minister or president of Hungary, very nationalist, proud state, or Poland's leader, nationalist, proud of their people, cool, whatever. They're encouraging their people to have kids. They're saying, hey, you can have kids, right? We'll give you when you get married, we'll give you a loan of $50,000 or $100,000, whatever it is, right? And if you have at least 3 kids, then you don't have to pay it back. You don't have to pay it back. You can use that money. You can buy a house, put it towards this and that, put it towards building up a family so we can have nice, proud Polish people. We need to carry on the nice, proud Polish people and Polish legacy of a great country full of Polish people who know what Polish people like, right? Or Hungarian or wherever. Could be Canadian, could be American, could be whoever, right? But you encourage your own people to reproduce to beat this this population reduction where we're having 1.2 kids instead of 2.1 kids per middle class average family in developed countries. And then our population is going to shrink, and where are we going to get the jobs? It's all garbage anyway. We got computers, we got technology. Who cares if our population shrinks a bit, right? What does it matter, right? That's all just to scare us into accepting open borders and mass migration and screwing up our countries. It doesn't even matter, right? It's just bullshit they sell us, right? But you can have some of these ideas to encourage people, but keep in mind that is encouraging more normal. That is not encouraging more crazy or weird or anti-human stuff like Cats, the movie Cats, weird things you're doing to your body, weird things you're forcing other people to say you like, or weird things the media is pushing people to like. And I'm not against people doing their own thing. I don't care if you're a punk or a skinhead, you've got a mohawk, you got whatever. But when everybody is encouraged to be into weird things or different things, or like the movie Cats, the animal human hybrid clone weirdos singing, good looking celebrities you want to see on the big screen or on your big TV screen, now kind of looking kind of weird and ugly and creepy and sort of human but sort of animal and sort of off-putting, right? When that type of crap is out there, right, that's a different story, right? So that's my point on this, right? My point on this is to not just give the sort of nutshell, this is good, this is bad, Cats was a disaster, right? But it's to sort of organically reflect this is how people really feel about the transhumanist and before that eugenics agenda being forced on us, about all the ugly, weird things they're encouraging people to do that we're forced to say we like, otherwise we're racist or sexist or phobic or old-fashioned or weird or rude or mean to people doing something different. It's like, no. I like what I like. That means I get to like stuff and I get to be happy. I don't want to be forced to like shit that's ugly and weird and creepy to me. And I don't want anybody else to suffer from that and then be forced to say I like that until I'm miserable, whether it's people or buildings or the movie Cats. Right? Does that make sense? Anyway, I hope some of these ideas were helpful. And there you have it. So I'll leave it there for now. I think you get the idea. I think there's enough in there to sort of give you or whomever a framing device to look at not only the movie Cats and not only some related things, but this sort of a way of thinking in general, and help speak on it and reject it in your own ways when it comes to how you think, how you feel, how you talk, and how you act, and how you encourage or discourage other people from doing that without being called names and not allowed to think anymore, right? About what makes you happy or anybody else, which seems to be part of a big evil plan, which we can resist, which is good. So there you have it. So feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, get in touch with questions or answers or ideas to work together, interview requests, or financial support. All is very greatly appreciated to grow these efforts and grow this channel, and especially promote the offline InfoWar, ideally locally, having chapters worldwide in different towns and cities. So people who are getting worked up on the internet can connect with other people locally talk in person, because I've done it myself. I've gotten worked up on the internet. It was frustrating. And then you meet a bunch of other people that get worked up on the internet. And you realize you're all cool people. You're nice people. This is what you get worked up about. You're passionate about. You could talk about. Plus, you can talk about other different stuff, sports, pop culture, celebrities. You can go for a beer. You're still normal humans. You just care about what's going on in the world, trying to make it better for yourself and the next generation, which isn't that weird anyway, right? So to expand not just the online but the offline Infowar efforts, so pissed off patriots can reach confused civilians, make them less confused, and help them think for themselves, as opposed to not being given the information and the option to, which is currently often what's happening today when it comes to offline, right? Where we're all supposed to kind of be the same, corporate clones, commie zombies, don't say this, don't say that, don't set somebody off because they're hypersensitive or bitchy or a cry bully, don't be seen as weird, blah, 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 blah. No, polite patriots who get along better with each other and can help other people get along better, can make their point and make it well and be appreciated. And any bitchy, histrionic, screaming mess just looks worse than you do, and people in the middle can choose. You're like, okay, so we're the red-pilled, polite patriots. We're cool with each other. We're cool with you. Happy to mind our business. Happy to get along. Happy to pass something on. Happy to chat about it. Whatever, right? That, you're people crazy. You people crazy. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. They're crazy. And then everybody in the middle goes, actually, you look worse than they do. Maybe I will, take that, maybe I will, take that flyer or that piece of paper, and I'll read it on my own time. They're not bothering me now. They're not bothering me to put up with them, so maybe I will. Maybe I will take it seriously. Maybe I will, because they look a lot worse than you do, complaining about them, right? So to expand the offline Infowar efforts, everywhere, and see manforwars.com for more on that. And I've got some videos, that show how this works successfully with diverse groups of people, which proves it can work worldwide in any country where you have the freedom to do this. And you should use it or lose it while you can. So that's on that. Otherwise, Black Krishna or BK for manforwars.com. I do hope this helps, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.